Hi everyone, my name is Charlie and today I have the Classics book tag. My very first video on this channel 5 years ago was the Classics book tag because I wanted to come across as somewhat more pretentious. I was going to watch and react to that video last month to celebrate 5 years on this platform, but I couldn't do it because I was looking at myself, I was looking at the weight that I was, which was considerably heavier. I couldn't get through the awkwardness of it. As we're about to enter into Victober, and this tag has resurfaced, and the fact that I've actually read a few more classics now, I think that it's the perfect time for me to have a second chance at the Classics book tag. This tag was created by It's a Book World, and once again, I wasn't tagged by anybody. 1. An overhyped classic you really didn't like. Back in the day, I said Anna Karenina. Do you want to know what I'm saying now? Wuthering Heights. And I should have said Wuthering Heights way back when as well, because Anna Karenina I read once, and I recently repurchased it because I think I'm of an age to appreciate that book more. Wuthering Heights is a book that I have revisited, and every time I go back, I find something new to despise. Naturally, there are points in that book where I go back and I think, I appreciate the writing here and the sort of style where Emily Bronte will take us into different narratives and have different people telling the story. I love that, but I hate that book. I hate the characters, I hate the story. I'm able to cope with it because I listen to it with Patricia Routledge as the narrator, but every other aspect of this story, this weird tale of revenge, I despise. Wuthering Heights is not for me. 2. Favourite time period to read about. This has changed in the 5 years since I recorded this video. Back then, I said I like to read books set during the golden age of classic crime. And now I think that what I quite like to read about are books set after the war. Not in the interwar period between 1918 and 1938, but after the Second World War. I've really enjoyed reading these books recently about women who have taken on different roles during the war, and they are now trying to keep the place in society that they had handed to them, and now people are trying to take back. I love a book with a female lead anyway, but it's that period of the world trying to reacclimatise and society trying to figure out what sort of position it's in that I quite like. 3. Favourite fairy tale. Same. Little Red Riding Hood. Girl is going to visit her grandmother. There's a wolf there. The wolf is going to kill her grandmother and is going to kill her as well. And it's a brilliant cautionary tale. And I still agree with myself from 5 years ago that it teaches children the right idea. Don't stray from the path, but also stay home. Don't visit anybody. Stay away from them because you will die. Stay at home. Don't go out. Just stay away. It's a good message to send out. 4. The most embarrassed classic you haven't read yet. Does it mean the most classic I'm embarrassed not to have read yet? Either way, I'm not embarrassed to have not read anything. I'd say, well, we're going to move into top 5 classics you'd like to read soon for the next question, but I'm not embarrassed by having not read anything. I just sometimes feel like I should have got to something by now, but I'm never feeling any sort of shame in not having got to having read something. So that does bring us into the top 5 classics you would like to read soon. And so with that, I have The Warden by Anthony Trollope, Sylvia's Lovers by Elizabeth Gaskell, or actually anything by Elizabeth Gaskell. I would like to get to North and South at some point too. I'd say I'd also like to read Bleak House, and I want to revisit Anna Karenina. So there you go, 5 classics. 6. Favourite modern book / series based on a classic. Oh, I don't actually know. I'm going to pass on this one, but can I give a generic answer of everything is based on classics? Because the books that were written in the past have informed the way that we write today in order to provoke a certain type of feeling in people. So any of my favourite books that I have read over the last 28 years could be included right here. 7, favourite movie version / TV series based on a classic. I'm going to give you 2. I'm going to give you A Muppet's Christmas Carol, although there are actually 3 versions of A Christmas Carol that I like. Scrooge with Alistair Sim, Scrooge, the musical version with Albert Finney, because there is nothing more hilarious to me than a man dancing on top of his own coffin while singing Thank You Very Much. But A Muppet's Christmas Carol beats them all. It blows them out of the water. I might be 28, but I watch that film at least twice a year. It's who I am. And the TV series was going to be Great Expectations that starred Gillian Anderson a few years ago. I really thought that was a brilliant, brilliant adaptation. It was so good, actually, it got my sister watching it. Admittedly, that was because she fancied the actor playing Pip, but still. 8, worst classic to movie adaptation. This is where I admit that I haven't actually watched a lot of film or TV. 9, favourite edition you'd like to collect more classics from. I quite like the Penguin English Library editions, simply because they seem to have quite an easy font for me to read. I think back in the day I said the Wordsworth classics because they were cheap, but now that I've aged somewhat, I'm unable to read them. So honestly, if it looks good and the print's good enough for me to read, that's all it takes at the moment. I have quite liked Sarah over at Hardcover Hearts I saw recently said about the Folio Society editions, and there is a version of A Christmas Carol by them that I do quite like the look of, and apparently it's a bestseller. As long as I can read it, I'm okay. 10, an underhyped classic you'd recommend to everyone. You see, this just says classics. It never says it has to be Victorian, does it? We're going for a modern classic here, and we're going Mrs. Palfrey at the Claremont by Elizabeth Taylor. And if you didn't see that coming, well, I'm sorry. If you want me to go more classic, then let's go with Thomas Hardy and Far From the Madding Crowd, although I do think a lot of people like him. I know that at the time people didn't necessarily care for his fictions, did they? Tessa de d'Urbervilles is just depressing, but looking back on it, I do look on it a bit more fondly than I did as a teenager. That's the tag done. And my answers might have differed somewhat from 5 years ago. They might not be different at all. I don't know, and I don't care, but we've redone this now, and I feel somewhat better for the experience. Have you read any of these books? Do you disagree or agree with my answers? Do you know? Honestly, let me know, but don't expect a comment anytime soon because I'm really, really behind. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and until next time, that is all.